About how to craft your lyrics into heart-stopping poetry. So here is a section of lyrics, 2 lines of lyrics. I was lonely and sad because she was gone. I walked down the street and kept moving on. Now that's okay. I have a rhyme, gone and on, and the 2 lines are matched in the sense that the stress patterns are the same in terms of the stressed and unstressed syllables. They're pretty much the same from line to line, so they match each other. But let's look at a rewrite of these 2 lines. My lonely boots drag down the hard, crooked street as my head swirled with echoes of her jasmine heartbeat. Now the second line, the second 2 lines, is actually saying the same thing as the first two, but it's saying it in a much more captivating way. So I'll read these again. I was lonely and sad because she was gone. I walked down the street and kept moving on. Or, my lonely boots dragged down the hard, crooked street as my head swirled with echoes of her jasmine heartbeat. So why would you think that this would be working better and is more captivating and appealing? I mean, at first you might think, well, it sounds more poetic. But there's specific techniques that I use to rewrite this, and I want to talk about them so that you can use them in your own song to really spice up your lyrics. The first one is called sense-bound writing. Some people think of this as being picturesque, painting a picture with images, but it's more than just images that you can see. We're using sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, and then 2 other senses that we don't often talk about that much. The organic sense is how you feel inside your body, like I have butterflies in my stomach, or my back hurts, or I have goosebumps on my arms. And then the sense of motion, like the feeling you get when you're on a roller coaster, or the feeling when you're swinging up and down on a swing, or when you step off a subway train and you feel the difference between how fast you're going and now being stopped. So these are the senses that we can use. And if you look through the lines, I've got boots, which is something you can really visualize and almost feel yourself putting on. The boots dragged, so that's something I can feel my feet dragging with the boots on. I've got a crooked street, but it's not just an ordinary crooked street, it's a hard one. It's a hard crooked street. And then I've got my head. I can kind of see my head. It's not that strong of an image, but my head's swirling. That makes it much more clear. And that's that sense of, that organic sense of how I feel inside when I'm almost feeling dizzy. And it's swirling with echoes. And the echoes are of a girl. You might think of things she might have said. And the echoes are things that we can hear. We can hear these echoes, almost memories of somebody speaking. And the jasmine is something you can smell, and her heartbeat, which is something you can hear and feel. So we've used about 6 or 7 different sense-bound words within these lines to really bring them to life. And that's something you can do with your own lyrics, is you can go back in and edit your lyrics and just rewrite them with more sense-bound imagery and sense-bound writing. You will often end up, like if you notice here, my rhymes, street and beat, are completely different than gone and on, so you may end up having to restructure the rhyme scheme. And you will also probably spend about 10 times as long on the second set of words than you will on the first. But it's really worth it, because you get quicker at this the more you do it. So it's worth spending the time editing your lyrics like this. I always think of writing lyrics twice. I write down my lyrics, and then a day or 2 later, I'll go back in edit mode and say, all right, let me rewrite this. And sometimes I'll spend days rewriting my words to really bring them to life. But let's talk about something else that's going on here. We've got metaphors. Metaphors, it's like saying this is that. It creates multiple layers of meaning. So the hard, crooked street is really a metaphor for the crooked street being hard is a metaphor for how much of a struggle it is now that I'm alone. If it was, I mean, it could have been a funny-looking crooked street, and that would be a completely different metaphor. That wouldn't imply anything about struggle. So depending on what adjective I use there, it creates a different type of metaphor. My boots dragging down the street, that's a metaphor for how hard it is to get through life now that I'm alone. And The echoes are a metaphor for memories from maybe things I heard the girl say, conversations together. So metaphors help really bring your lyrics to life as well. And if I look deeper, I think there's a couple other metaphors in here, but let's move on to another concept which I think is really important, applying human attributes to inanimate objects. Now, if I say, let me see what I got here. The lonely boots. Okay, boots can't be lonely, but if I create an image of lonely boots, it brings them to life, and it makes it much more real. It kind of taps into the subconscious mind where emotions and feelings of individuals are much less separate from objects in the physical universe than we might feel when we're wide awake. Deeper in the subconscious, where we often get inspiration from, the boundaries between this and that, and us as individuals and other things are a little fuzzier. They're not quite as strong and hard. So these type of metaphors where you are applying human attributes to inanimate objects help you tap into a deeper level of reality, a deeper level of meaning, and so you've got multiple layers of depth there.